Is that also okay if I take some notes?
Please.
Awesome. Today, for coaching session, we have about 20 minutes, and I do my utmost to help you with your current challenge. So let me start. What can I help you with?
Fantastic. So, did you understand what I do? Or do you background?
Yeah. Maybe allow me that you just introduce yourself a bit. What is your point of interest?
Sure.
Stuff like that.
So I work as a director for business development in a boutique IT services firm.
Yeah.
Boutique is, well, you know of PwC, you know of Oracle, they're huge, IBM is huge. We would be a very small, we do exactly the same thing that they do. We're boutique in the sense that we'll just take a few projects. Our team structures are very different. Most of these IT services firms have a huge pool of talent. That means if you're sitting here with me, I ask for a solution and you give it to me and I say, hey, can we start in 2 hours? Sitting in IBM, you can say, yes, we can start in 2 hours. That's not going to happen with me because I don't have a bench.
Okay.
So that's why we are boutique.
Yeah.
So we are boutique by design because we cannot compete against the likes of Accenture, IBM, right? Within the boutique services, we focused on a few domains that are of interest to us.
Yeah. Which as?
Insurance, retail, manufacturing, fashion, services. So in services, you have restaurants, and then logistics, supply chain, that sort of thing. So if you have these domain practice areas, they are supported by different technology separate practices. So technology specific practice and then a domain specific practice. So in the US, I focus on 2 practice areas, but my current focus and my current goal or my challenge is to do with insurance. The context is we built up a big practice on insurance dependent only on one client.
Okay.
It's a global client. It's huge. It's based in Chicago.
Yeah.
Now the problem is that God forbid something changes, which I mean is the CIO, CTO changes or the board changes the entire C-suite. I have a relationship with them and they don't like me and say, we don't want you, we want someone else, then we're dead.
Oh, okay.
So it's extremely risky.
Yeah.
So that's contributing $2.5 million to our kitty. There's a huge amount of money supporting 30 people. I have to de-risk my entire insurance practice by acquiring one insurance client in the next 3 months.
Next few or 3 months?
3 months.
Okay. All right. So this is, let me summarize. There is a lot of stake, especially as it is an IT service company. You're mostly responsible, or like the focus is on the insurance area, and you currently have one client, which means when that client does no longer, there's a high risk, and you need to support your people in your company.
Exactly.
And as a goal, you want to establish to have one more client within the next 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah. All right. What can you tell me about your usual client requirement process?
Great question. So I've given you enough hint that we are a small boutique IT services firm, and as a small firm, then you try to do things differently.
Yeah.
So what we found out is what's really worked for us in the past and historically has been word of mouth. So we take on a client, we service the client very, very well, we have a relationship going forward, and then we leverage the relationship by saying or soliciting for other references in domain areas where we are targeting. For example, we've been working with a lot of these fashion companies in New York. All you have to do is you have a conversation with them or look them up on LinkedIn. You know who they're connected to. Do that research and you know that they're connected to folks in insurance, right? And then you can simply go and request for introduction. What that happens is coming in directly from someone who knows who you are is a fantastic reference for someone who's an unknown, because I'm trying to reach an unknown, right? That unknown is a known to someone that I know, that I'm already servicing. The process has been word of mouth, reaching out to these prospects, cultivating a relationship, and then just asking a very generic question, a question as simple as, can I be of help? Now, it may sound very cheesy, but that's who we are. You have a problem. It may or may not be connected to what you do in business, which is fine. The reason I'm trying to do that is because I want to be seen as someone who's genuinely helpful. I'm not there just to make money. I'm there to give you advice and someone that you can trust, correct? So it's extremely important for me to have that reference and then to meet that reference face to face. Because once you've done that, can you take it to the next level and you can have a meaningful conversation, hopefully leading to a business partnership in the long term, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Let me summarize just one more time to see if we're on the same thing. For a new client, you would usually go to word of mouth. So you look through your network. You look for in different industry even, like if they're connected to insurance companies or companies that have a potential interest in that field. And then like get yourself to know them, ask for, hey, can I like in the English word right now, can I introduce myself? And then it's very important for you to have the perception that you're generally helpful, like you're not there to scam of a business, like, hey, I just want to have more clients, but it's we're humans, I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about the business and leave the other parts of
Exactly.
bim around. Okay.
Exactly.
So when you say you want to acquire a new client for within the next 3 months, do you think this method is the right one? Or how would this method will help you to get the new client?
Great question. So, actually, this is just one of traditional ways that you can acquire clients, and this is not the only one that I've tried to acquire my clients.
Okay.
I've also cold called people.
Yeah.
However, technically, it won't be really cold calling because I had a reference, so I had a story. So even if I cold call somebody, I'm giving a reference and saying, hey, by the way, I was talking to someone. They were saying that you're sitting on mainframe machines, still running on COBOL. I can help you because I have a COBOL practice, right?
Yeah.
And you may wish to give me a call back. So what I found out after having done this, which I do for everybody, one client of mine, which is America's second largest quick service restaurant, the VP IT, one fine day, I again given a cold call. He just picked up the phone, okay, out of the blue. He remembered who I was. That means he was listening into the conversations. And then he had a problem statement for me right there on the phone. So he said, my POS machines in my restaurants, and they have 3,000 restaurants across the US. Yeah, that's a lot. So we've been running a machine which is still coded with FoxPro. FoxPro is a language which was written 30 years back. It's still talking back to AS400 systems. So that's a problem right there. So you do not have people who even understand FoxPro code, leave alone modernize it. So he threw a few things at me and saying, I'm thinking of using so-and-so framework. I know enough about technology to go and say, you fine, great, I can't say no, that's stupid. That's a great option. You may also wish to consider this. So then he's listening and saying, why do you say that? I said, because I have skills, I've done similar projects. If you don't have to believe me, you can talk to my solution architects. May I take this opportunity of getting some time from you and your team to have a 30-minute exploration call, to which he agreed. The 30-minute became 2 hours, we signed the contract and we did it. Now, my problem is, it was a cold call, fine, it worked, one off. Other instances, someone gave a direct reference, that worked. So there is no method to the madness, you understand?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do this with insurance. It's not getting me the results that I want. Or maybe it's not getting me results I want quicker or faster. So at the back of my mind, the clock is ticking because you got all this investment only on one client. And God forbid something happens. That means the CIO goes away. Then what the hell do you do? So you are open to politics. You are open to a new person coming in and saying, I want my team. You are not the A team now. So that's the issue. I will continue doing the same thing. They've had successes, but then I'm not really sure will they actually lead to a meaningful conversation where I can, sit down and say, hey, by the way, I can help you. I can give you a few people who can be of help, or I can come and become a project manager. That's not happening.
know in your field of insurance that gets the results quicker and faster, as you just said?
Great question. Now, there are many people, of course, my counterparts who do the same thing. They seem to have the same issues. They have the same issues, that there is a long lag period between you going and trying to do this cold versus you making some progress. However, some of my counterparts who work in much larger companies, for example, who work with IBM, so what's going to help you? The name. You see the problem right there? So I give my card, I talk about whatever, etc. You know, even a kid knows what is IBM. Everyone knows what's Apple or Google. That by itself, so that's a door opener for you. Even if the person has no need, the person is still interested, even if you make a cold call, to return your call because you believe something awesome is going to happen with the conversation. Because at the very least, the guy's going to say, hey, by the way, we had a new blog. Can I direct you to the blog? So you have more contemporary information.
Yeah.
Whereas at my end, I'm a one-man army. I don't have access to original content. I do everything in and out. I manage my teams, I manage the relationships, I manage this, and I have no help. And I'm competing against someone who's from Accenture, IBM, Oracle, and PwC. There you go.
Okay.
So they have a much better strike rate for very obvious reasons I just mentioned to you.
Okay. So let me try to get a bit of a different perspective on it. So stripping the name away, stripping all the other things, where you say that does work for the others but not for me. What excites you? What would work for you? An idea that you'd love to try out.
Great. So I think because I know that I have a limitation in my workplace, because the founder is very old school, so I really have to rely on old school methods, right? The only old school method that I have not really tried is a cut and dry, typical cold call, essentially, meaning I drive into the client's office and I pretend that I was passing by and I leave a letter saying, hey, by the way, I was passing by. Here is a handwritten, I still write, by the way. Here's a handwritten note for you, okay? And I was hoping that we could meet for dinner. So just something like that. Can I invite you for dinner? This is the best number to reach me at. This is an invite. Do consider reaching out. And I can be cheeky in saying, hey, by the way, I promise you won't talk business. The reason is very simple, because out here the antennas of people are up. They believe that it's always about what's in it for me. It may not be, at least not for me. I do it differently. However, I don't expect the other person to know who I am. It's never going to happen if you don't have that one-to-one interaction, right?
Okay, yeah.
So it's a quid pro quo. It's a catch-22. If I don't get to know the person will not know me. That person is probably assuming I don't. That person is assuming many things about me that are not true, perhaps. I generally want to help.
Yeah.
But how does the person know? So if you are close to it while I am open, you got a mismatch right there. So when you're talking of out of box, that's the only thing I can think of that I like to do now.
Okay. What prevents you from doing it?
Great question. My own boss, who is old school, does not believe in this.
So if I
So here's the irony.
Okay, yeah. And so if I understand, because he doesn't believe in it, you're not doing it?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because it's an owner-driven cultural thing. He drives the culture. There are many good aspects of the culture. It's a very people-oriented, employee-oriented company. But he's stuck in his old ways, in his own thoughts. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And you know it with body language, and
Okay,
you know
I get
it. So I'm not going to threaten my job in the face of being axed. That's a problem right there. So there are many ironies. So he's typically old school. Oh, check this, curate your contacts, do this, talk to people, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Go and meet them, but you cannot go and do this. Well, I can only impress, because my role within the team is that of advisor. I can go and advise him and say, hey, by the way, you have a long list of old traditional methods. I follow all of them. I may wish to do this. So no, it's a waste of time. The matter ends. This is the problem?
Definitely. So what other ways do you think you could no, well, let me formulate it others, just to get really precise, maybe not summarizing. Do you think, just as a very strict yes or no question, just for me to see if we're on the same page, do you think you could surprise your boss by showing how effective that work is?
Then I'll have to go against him. So essentially, yeah, I could. You're right.
Yeah.
So what I could do one day is, for example, when he's traveling outside New York and New Jersey, I don't tell him what I'm doing. So I'm not doing the right thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not doing the right thing.
Gray area.
Yeah, it's a gray area. I go there, I do this, and then I get a response. And then I go and tell him, hey, by the way, behind your back, I have a confession to make, full confession. I did this, and Zico answered.
What do you think is going to happen then?
That's a problem I have.
Okay. You don't know?
I do not know.
Okay. How likely are you going to try to find out? Is there any chance?
I think if push comes to shove, I probably just will bite the bullet, you know. So that may be detrimental to my entire career, to everything that I've done so far. It's come to that point.
Okay.
But I'm more than, it's like harakiri, kamikaze, whatever you want to call it. I'm more than prepared to do it, because in my mind, I don't know. Maybe it's a, you know, people often talk of gut feeling. But it's not gut feeling, it's cumulative number of years of experiences or multiple experiences swimming in your head and something telling you, hey, by the way, try it, despite the fact that it's going against what he does not want you to do, right? But it's fraught with risk, and the risks far, far greater. But thanks to the fact that you brought this up, I think I'll go and probably do it.
How would you, just to be concrete, when you approach a client who has an old school method still in use, how do you approach a new thing for him? Which is,
You mean a client? Mm-hmm. Well, that's the easy part, because once you have an interaction like this, with my years of experience, it's very easy for me to assess what the client is, what's the school of thought. Mm-hmm. It's got nothing to do with age, it's got nothing to do with whatever, etc. It can be old school because you like it, so you have a bias, which is fine, or you're old school, very modern. It's a very simple conversation. You can have a simple conversation about your interests or your handicap in golf, for example. That can tell you a whole lot of clues about, you know, because many times what you think in your professional life comes down to your play field. So the way you play soccer, the way you play American football, or the way that you swim, sail, gym, or the way you're disciplined, tells a whole lot about how you're probably thinking at work. That's the easy part. The difficult part, of course, is to have the conversation. So for me, that's a challenge.
okay. And how would you transfer this one to talking with your boss? Because what I just thought about is when you have a client that has old school methods and like has a bit of, I don't want to try this new thing, to transfer that to your boss. He has an old school method, and like, I don't want to try this one. So can you transfer that one?
Yeah, so tried that. And my boss, the president of the company, is I don't believe he's set in his ways, so to speak. He's not used to really. He's not really 100% approve. I mean, essentially, he will listen to everybody, but he'll have his own way.
Okay.
So I've seen that. All right. So I know enough about him to know that he's set in his ways, and that's probably not going to work. So I've done that. So my assessment of him is, because I sit with him in the next cabin, I know him, I've been to many client calls with him, I know who he is as a person. I'm not taking anything. So I take it the way it is. I'm not here to evangelize or to change you, because I'm not your psychologist. I accept you the way that you are. So if that's a challenge, I have to work around it, and that's exactly what I'm doing. However, despite the challenges, which are very obvious, I'm still looking to have a different method of reaching out to my target prospects, where I can simply have just a conversation, just a simple conversation. That's the roadmap I'm looking for.
So you were saying earlier that based on what I said, what we come to in the conversation, that
Yes.
you want to try
Oh, yes.
and go in. Like, how would that specifically look like?
But like I said, my boss is out of town. I don't report in. I mean, fine. I go to
Okay,
the
so
office in the morning, and without telling him, I sneak in because some of these clients are pretty close to where I live. I live in Pilsen. One of the target clients is about 15 minutes drive away from me. All I have to do is just go there, drop in the letter, invite, and then come back and see what happens. Yeah.
I didn't notice that one as a real option. That's why I was just confused about. That's why
No,
I
so
decided.
no, so,
Yeah.
so the thing is, I have a long curated list. I can map it within the state, outside the state, within driving distance. So it's not really a big deal. All it takes is that you go, you handwrite an invite, okay, giving perhaps a reference. It may or may not work for you, but simply give an invite, introducing yourself very briefly that I am so and so. Try to reach you in the past. All I'm looking to do is to have dinner with you, right?
Yeah.
And I promise we're not going to talk business. That's what it is.
How likely do you think you're gonna do that the next time your boss
I'm
is...
definitely going to try after this.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, that sounds cool. So does that mean the next time we see each other? Let's say, like what time frame would that be?
Oh, I can probably, we can meet after a month and I can give you a report on how that's gone and what's really worked, what's not worked, and we can circle back and look at other options.
How many tries or cards do you want to hand out in that month?
I could probably do one a day if I wanted to, but the thing is I have so much on my plate because there are other practice areas. It's not practically possible. So I would definitely do a minimum of 4, one a week, and definitely look for doing 8.
That sounds good, like very reasonable, right?
Yeah, that's very reasonable. I think very doable,
Yeah.
and without impinging on my other work. So yeah, I think that's doable. So we can agree on doing between 4 to 8.
Okay, so in a month,
Yes.
I expect 6? No, 4 to 8. 4 to 8 contacts?
Yeah.
That sounds very cool. And then we can reflect on what worked, what didn't work.
Absolutely.
And just to see, is there anything else where you're like, okay, that is just a topic I want to bring up, a thought that is
No,
still in your
no.
mind?
I think the focus is clearly on me acquiring one new logo in the next quarter. I think this is worth a try, despite the issues that may arise, which is fine. So, yeah,
Sounds
so
good.
let's do this.
Perfect. I'm excited.
So am I.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Parane.
Of course. And